But it's good. I like it. I like being able to represent the film and do everything I can for it.
Sorry, you've got 8 minutes. I'll do the timer. I'll tap you when it's 2 minutes, and then I'll tap you again when it's 1 minute. Okay?
Thank you. I'm sorry to flinch. Well, congratulations on the film.
Thank you very much.
I was only actually in LA about just over a week and a half ago.
Hmm.
And I was surprised actually that it seemed to be that all the kind of cleaning ladies in the hotel, the
Yeah.
people in the restaurants were all from kind of Hispanic
Yeah.
backgrounds. Was it that reason that you wanted to kind of highlight sort of their struggle? What was it about that community that you wanted to film?
Yeah, well, LA is very stratified in terms of, as you noticed, a lot of the people who do the really hard work and the dirty work are from a Hispanic background, and people who are fortunate enough to be on the receiving end of that kind of help often don't ask whether they are documented or undocumented. They don't care. They just know that this is the person who is helping them with their child, parking their car, filling their water glass. This was a bit of a look into their lives and the pressures that they face and the fear in which they live, and also the universality of what they're doing, not just in terms of the global question of immigration, but in terms of the love of parent for child and how much you'll do for your children. So yeah.
Well, it touches on different aspects of family life,
Mhm.
social aspects,
Mhm.
legal aspects even. I mean, what kind of research into kind of immigration did you do, not just in LA, but just on a general scale? And what
Yeah.
did you learn from the research you did do?
Well, I learned a great deal. This film was, there's not, it's not very sort of academic on the screen, but there was a lot of research behind it. And as much as I spoke to immigration lawyers, spoke to experts on gang culture, spoke to teenagers living in East LA, spoke to gang members, and the script is extraordinarily vivid and authentic because it's literally been given to people who are in street gangs and people who face that kind of pressure every day. And what you do find out is that, well, first of all, you find out that it's exactly what you would do if you were in the same position. And that most of these people who are demonized in society are actually incredibly hardworking, contribute to society. In America, they contribute $25 billion to the tax base, often without using civil services because they're afraid of being turned in. Now that's an extraordinary figure. There are 12 million undocumented immigrants in America. And I'll tell you something else. The Republican Party, as much as it thunders about it, wants them there because big business wants them there to keep labor costs down.
Well, I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? If the government really didn't want them there, they'd find a way for them to never somehow, I guess.
Well, there is right now, of course, it's a big issue and it's kind of a political football. But first of all, how do you get 12 million people out of the country instantly? Second of all, how do you keep people from coming in? I mean, the border crackdown that we've experienced in Arizona and in New Mexico and California hasn't lowered the number of illegal immigrants at all, but it has meant that 3,000 people a year die in the Sonora Desert trying to get to America.
I mean, with this film, are you kind of hoping to slightly maybe educate people a bit on people's stories? I know obviously this is a fictional story,
Yeah.
but it probably is quite close to what a lot of people are experiencing.
It's a very, very authentic story because I know this because when we show it to audiences of not just Hispanic immigrants, but really everybody in America, because America is a country made up of immigrants. I myself am first generation. Well, I mean, we definitely don't want to lecture people. It's not an academic exercise. Essentially, first, it's kind of an adventure. But I think people do emerge with their eyes opened about the status of people who up until then have remained invisible. And in fact, that's true of a lot of the immigrant populations throughout Europe as well.
And kind of back to the actual film. I mean, in terms of casting, how did you find your two main guys? And also, I understand that there were some real gang members that you kind of got to do scenes in the film. So how did that kind of balance itself out?
Yeah, well, the lead is played by Demian Bichir, who's a big star in Mexico. but who hasn't been seen much in American film or in British film, which means that there's this incredible performance being delivered by someone you haven't seen before, which really allows an audience to discover him for themselves. And then there's Jose Julian, who's a first-timer, and to me, who delivers the sort of performance that my brother and I got from Nicholas Hoult years ago in About a Boy, which is to say, someone doing something for the first time who's a complete revelation. Now, for the gang members, we were auditioning actors to play gang members, and they gave a kind of a received notion of what people think gang members are and that you see in bad US TV shows and movies. And we thought, well, this isn't quite working. So we went to Homeboy Industries, which is a gang intervention program, and did an open casting call. And so when you see a gang member in the movie, it's an ex-gang member who, for one reason or another has decided to leave that life, but who has an incredibly authentic notion of how people in that situation speak, act, think, and feel, which is really something special to capture on film.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I kind of suspected that they might have been
Mm-hmm.
which you kind of adds to the authenticity of the film.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of your life, because you're a family guy, do you
Mm-hmm.
think that maybe when you married and had a child, that it kind of changed your complete outlook on life and how you approach life and work?
Yeah, I think, I have a son now who was actually born in London, and was an illegal immigrant for about 6 days because, unlike in America, just being born here doesn't give you, citizenship. So until he was registered with the American embassy, he was a baby without a country. But you realize how much you would do to protect that person and to make life better for that person if you could. And so the situation that our hero finds himself in, I think any of us would do what he did.
And that's the thing, in the film it touches on kind of struggling to get that kind of family and work balance right, because he doesn't really spend as much time with his child as he wished. And
Yeah.
is it important to you to kind of get the balance right, make sure that your family are with you when you're traveling or you're working or...
Yeah, my son has basically grown up on movie sets. He knows that when somebody says action, you have to be very quiet. He's 4 years old. So he enjoys that sort of stuff. Unfortunately, for the hero of our movie, he has to work so hard that he doesn't really have the time to spend parenting his son at all, and he's a single father. So that means, that's the main determining factor as to whether a child is going to join a gang or not, a child from a really rough neighborhood, in America at least, and I'd imagine that's true of any place.
And finally, in the film, he tries to get his son to kind of be involved in his gardening business and kind of join him. And you say that you bring your child to work. Because you and your brother are in the film industry, if your son, when he grows up, decides he wants to get into showbiz, would you encourage it or kind of try and get him out?
I would discourage him. I think it's very hard to make it in the film business. I happen to be fortunate enough to work in a very glamorous profession, or at least that's how it looks from the outside. In the case of the character in the movie, he's a gardener, and that means that his son, who's essentially brought up by the television because his school is no good, has no respect for the sacrifices he's made. So I consider myself lucky in that way, but especially acting, I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy.
You've got to have really thick skin to be an actor, I guess.
Yeah, I don't. I'm very sensitive. I'm a sensitive guy. That's me.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoyed the film.
Thank you.